Good morning, you guys. Remember I told you that I was so excited that I got my book yesterday? This is Angie Peguero's book. The book is called God in Costume, and I want to read you guys the first page. It's so good. It's literally spiritual occult information in a book. And so the first page is called The Veil, right? It says, imagine being born perfect, whole, complete, and yet having absolutely no memory of why you are here, and utterly clueless about what you have just signed up for. And yet, you came into this life ready to experience every single moment of it, but no one told you the most important thing. No one told you that you are a soul, an ancient, powerful, eternal soul that chose to inhabit this body you were born with. No one reminded you as you grew up and started forming opinions about yourself and the world that you are the most powerful being in existence. No one sat you down and said, listen, before any of this begins, before the name and the body and the story, you need to know something about who you actually are. No one told you that you're God, playing an individual character in the most immersive game ever created. Simulation. A character with a name, a face, and a family. A specific set of wounds and gifts and ways of moving through the world. Let's say the name chosen for your character is Angie Martinez or Livdamis Veloz, right? Or whatever name was written on your birth certificate. That is where the illusion of who you are really, who you believe you are began, right? That is where the illusion of who you believe you are began. And the moment you were given a name other than God, that is where the forgetting began and the veil started forming. And that's where you started building your persona. Damn, it's so good. I gotta read a little bit more. How long is it? 2 minutes. Okay. And when nobody told you was, you are not the persona you have built. You are so much more than that. This character you're playing, this unique experience you're having, is just a temporary costume. And underneath that costume, underneath the name, the body, the story, is the you that has never forgotten who you really are. The you that was never born and will never die, right? Because you're an eternal soul. You're just in this human body, this meat suit for this incarnation. And then you'll take another one, or you won't. But yeah, you're an eternal soul, right? The you that chose this particular game, this particular life, this particular experience of forgetting on purpose. I know, right? You forgot on purpose. The minute you opened your eyes on earth, they gave you a name. They celebrated it, they wrote it down. They called you by it over and over with love, with joy, with tenderness, until you started answering to it. Until you forgot there was ever anything else to answer to. Your parents and others looked at you and said, that is her, that is him, that is them. And slowly, without anyone meaning harm at all, the soul inside began to forget, right? You began to forget that you are the God in costume. And you started shaping yourself into a name, a body, a story. And because you didn't remember who you truly are, you started looking outward, right? You looked outward. To your parents, to the world, to tell you who you are, to tell you how life works. But the thing is, they too didn't remember either. No one had told them. They were simply passing down what had been passed down to them and calling it the truth. But it was never the truth of life. It was the programming of life. And there is a very significant difference between those two things, you may ask. What does that even mean to be born veiled? So let's take a look at its definition. A veil at its root is a covering, a curtain, a cloth, something that hides. But embedded in the word itself is a paradox. It hides, but it can also be lifted, right? A veil is not a wall. It is not permanent. It is a thin, permeable, temporary, intentional. Which means there is something real behind it, and access to it is actually possible. That is the veil of forgetting. You came here not remembering who you are, and that is not a mistake. It's neither a punishment nor a flaw in the design. It is the entire point, a temporary covering of your soul, right? A temporary covering your soul chose to experience itself through. Because the game on earth is this: your soul enters this reality and plays the role of someone who does not remember they are God, who does not remember they are powerful, who does not remember that they chose this. And then, through living, through contrast, through experience, something begins to crack. Excuse me. To crack open. And the whole point of the forgetting is to start finding your way back. Because the matrix, the reality you are living in right now, the one that feels so solid, so permanent, and so real, is the womb, the environment, the system through which your soul chose to develop and experience itself. And when I say your soul is developing, I don't mean something is incomplete, because an all-powerful source does not need completion. It is already complete. Nothing is lacking. Lacking is an illusion. Yet not everything is experienced. Source, all that you are, chose to enter a field where it could experience itself from a specific point of view, to play the game of I am not God. I am just human. I am powerless. Things happen to me. I survive. I react. I forget. To live inside a reality shaped by chosen programming until one day something cracks you open and you begin to awaken. You begin to remember, and I say remember because you are not learning something new. You're remembering something ancient, something that has always been true, something that has been waiting underneath the veil until you are ready to lift it. That is the point of life. Not for us to stay lost, not to remain unconscious of what is behind the veil, not to keep seeing through distortion, but to find your way back, to discover what exists underneath the programming once it is no longer covering what is real. Because once you are born into this lifetime, you begin to take on layers. Layers that tell you who you are. Layers that tell you who to be. Layers that define what is possible, what is safe, what is allowed. And all of it was intentional. Because God didn't come here to observe the game. God came here to be the game. To experience himself as you. Not a generic human. You specifically. This completely unrepeatable combination of experiences, wounds, gifts, and the ways of being God. Ways of being. God, the consciousness that created everything, looked at the possibility of your life and said, I want to experience that. Let's remember that God is described as omnipresent. It is everywhere, everything, through everything. But think about what that actually means. For God to be truly omnipresent, God must be everything, not something or someone watching from a distance. Not over there, not over there, but everything. Every blade of grass, every star, every breath, every soul. Including you. There is no place where God ends and you begin. Because the moment something exists outside of God, God is no longer all that exists. So the logic is simple. You are not separate from God. You are an expression of it. And I know this not just as a concept, but as something I know in my bones. So I will tell you the story. And then she goes into her story. This is so beautiful. Oh my God. God in costume. Remembering who you are. God in costume, Remember Who You Really Are by Angie Peguero.